I call to order the regular meeting of the Board of Public Works this December 7th, 2021. First up on the agenda is messages from board members. Are there any messages from the board?
I just would like to thank everyone who was involved in moving patients from the old hospital to the new on Sunday from about midnight. I guess it took about 12 hours. So thanks to everyone who was involved in that. It's a big project. And also to the leaf picker-uppers, and hope that's going well. It's been a different kind of fall for leaves falling, but hopefully it's all underway right now. Thank you all. Thanks, Dana.
Thank you. Yes, we just had our leaves picked up yesterday, and so it was really nice. They did a great job. Okay, next up is petitions and remonstrances. This is an opportunity for anyone that has any public comment on anything not on the agenda tonight. If you do, please use the raise hand feature or the chat.
I don't see anything coming through, Dana.
Me either. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Next up is consent agenda. We have 17 items on the consent agenda tonight. First is approval of minutes from the November 23rd, 2021 meeting. The 2022, man, I wish I remember what that stood for, but BDUAC appointments.
Bloomington Digital Underground Advisory Commission.
Thank you. Then we have the 2022 PEG content provider agreement with MCPL and the 2022 PEG content provider agreement with WTIU. We have the 2022 CATS funding agreement and the 2022 BDU use agreements with MCPL, MCCSC, Monroe County, and IU Health. Then we have the addendum number 1 to the 2021 HFI HVAC service agreement to include plumbing. We have 2022 service agreement with Trinkle Snow Plowing, the 2022 service agreement with Nature's Way, the 2022 service agreement with Indiana Door and Hardware, outdoor lighting service agreement for the West Gray Street, North Lemon Lane, and West Fountain Drive neighborhood, outdoor lighting service agreement with East Maxwell Lane, outdoor lighting service agreement for the intersection of West 12th and North Drive, and the approval of payroll. Were there any questions on the consent agenda from the board? Any public comment on consent agenda? I don't see any. Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the consent agenda.
And I second. And I'll call for a vote. Kyla Cox-Deckard. Yes. Beth Hollingsworth.
Yes.
Dana Hankey, yes. Motion passes. Next up is new business. First item is construction contract for the Tap and Deborah Signal installation project.
Good evening, Matt Smithers with the engineering department. This project will include the installation of a new traffic signal at the intersection of Tap Road and Deborah Drive. Bids were opened on November 8th with the city receiving one bid from E&B Paving. The contract will award the base bid amount, alternate number 2, and alternate number 4 for a contract amount of $498,361.75. Construction is anticipated to start in the spring of 2022. The maintenance of traffic plan would include restricting one of the available 4 lanes at any time during construction. The contractor has 90 days to complete construction, but I would not anticipate there being a lane restriction for all 90 days of construction. The project is NDOT funded as a part of the I-69 transfer agreement, and I would be glad to answer any questions.
A couple of questions. Was the cost about what you expected or hoping for?
It is higher than what our engineer's estimate was, but the estimate was from back in the summer, and there was some substantial material price increases since that time. So it is in line with what our other signal projects are being bid at this time.
Okay, the other question is, will there be flaggers when there's this, sounds like just an intermittent road closure? Will there be flaggers at that time so that people are aware that that lane is closed?
No, they'll have cones and a airboard sign that will restrict the one lane that is being blocked at that time.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, since this is, it's a new signal, are there plans for signage or just driver awareness through that area as that signal takes effect?
Typically, once a signal has been constructed, they'll put it on flash where it flashes red for like 3 days to let everyone get used to the fact that it is there before we activate it.
And
I'll just, go ahead, Dana, please.
I was just going to ask, I know that I've noticed that sometimes we get some change orders for ADA compliance. Are we certain that we have all the designs and everything in the packet for ADA compliance for this signal?
Yeah, the plans include 4 new ADA ramps, 1 for each corner. Hopefully everything is designed properly and there won't be any changes.
Yeah, and I'll just jump in real quick here to add this. There's some history to this project that dates back several years, agreements from even, I believe, possibly past administrations with NDOT on this. So this has to do with the employment center of when Hoosier Energy built their main headquarters out there. They worked and negotiated with NDOT that if there was ever a signal warrant study done to state that a signal was warranted based on the increased traffic. So that's where this all kind of comes from. That's why this is an NDOT funded project. It was all part of, years ago agreements with the I-69 transfer agreement. Some things to note too, I've talked with Andrew Seabour and the engineering team about this is, that location or that quadrant of, the I-69 interchange with Tap Road has a technology park down there. It's got several large vacant tracts of land to, we got kitties and dogs all at the same time. That's great. There's several vacant parcels down there that are looking for redevelopment opportunities with developers and things. So with Weimer Road and some of the other access points to those developments, it's not to say that this signal will be in that location forever, and that traffic patterns of the future could modify this area. But this again is a long-standing agreement that we finally got to a bid place that is acceptable to NDOT and to the city and everybody. So thank you.
Thanks for that explanation, Adam. Was there any public comment on this item?
I lost the chat box, but nothing's showing. It doesn't look like anything's there. There we go. Nope, nothing in the chat, and I don't see any hands raised, Dana.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve construction contract, Tap and Deborah Signal Installation Project, E&B Paving.
And I second. And I'll call for a vote. Kyla Cox-Deckard? Yes. Beth Hollingsworth?
Yes.
And Dana Hankey, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, we have the change order number 1 for the Maxwell Street Sidewalk Project.
Good evening, everyone. This is Russell White with the City Engineering Department. This contract included the installation of a new sidewalk on the east side of South Maxwell Street from East Miller Drive to East Short Street. The original contract amount for this project was $136,826. Change order number 1 is required to address pay items that were removed from that contract. If approved, this change order would result in a decrease of $12,500 and will add 19 days to the original contract limit. That would give a final adjusted contract amount of $124,326. And I'm happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Any public comment on this item? Don't see any. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve change order number 1 for the Maxwell Street Sidewalk project.
Nice second.
And I'll call for a vote. Kyla Cox Deckard,
Yes.
Beth Hollingsworth,
Yes.
Dana Hankey, yes. Motion passes. Next up is change order number 2 for the Maxwell Street Sidewalk project.
Russell White again with City Engineering. Again, this is the same project we talked about with change order number 1. Change order number 2 is required because the project has been completed and we're trying to do a final payout. And so what this change order will do is balance all the final pay items, get everything balanced to where it matches the contract. This change order would result in a decrease of $1,433.65 based on change order number 1's adjusted amount. That would again adjust the contract to $122,892.35. And I'll be happy to answer any questions.
You think this will be the final request for funding? Is this the final stage of this?
Yes, ma'am, that's what this is. It balances out all the pay items because there's always overruns or underruns depending on the project. And this balances them all out so that we get a final number.
Thank you.
Do we have any public comment on this item?
If anybody would like to offer public comment, you can use the raise hand function or the chat function. Not seeing anything at this time, Dana.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve change order number 2 for the Maxwell Street Sidewalk project.
Nice second.
And I'll call for a vote. Kyla Cox Deckard,
Yes.
Beth Hollingsworth,
Yes.
Dana Hankey, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is item number 4, the resolution 2021-70 right-of-way permit and encroachment into the right-of-way with a fiber optic line on South Strong Drive. And I don't know if someone's trying to talk, but we can't hear you. It might be Emily.
Adam Wason on behalf of Emily Herr. This is F.A. Wilhelm requesting to install a private fiber optic line in the right-of-way along South Strong Drive to Catalent, Indiana. This is the large Catalent campus down there. Oh, I see Emily. Emily, go ahead. I think Emily might be having audio issues. I'll just keep going. So this is to install a fiber line for Catalent. That would be a private fiber line. Usually those aren't allowed in the public rights of way. We've worked closely with them and their team to make sure that they identify this as a private utility with the 811 system in Indiana, pay for all the locate fees for any locates requested in the area, and then take on all maintenance responsibilities and costs associated with having that private line within the public right of way. They also added some, I believe some handholds on each side of the road to even draw further attention to the location of these, of this fiber optics. So staff's requesting approval and the board's support.
And I'd want to mention, in addition to the MOU, it's also approving the traffic or the lane closures on Strong Drive, and also the noise permit, which is now included in the packet that was not in yesterday. And so with this approval, we'd be approving all 3 of these: the encroachment agreement, the lane restrictions on Strong Drive, and also the noise permit.
Thank you, Patrick.
Would you mind just stating your name for the record?
Sorry, Patrick Durgas, City Engineering Department.
Thank you. And thank you for getting the noise permit in there. Any questions from the board on this item?
This is 7 PM to 7 AM from what, 12:15 to 12:16, just 2 days they're planning on.
That's the hope.
That is correct, yes. They plan to do one half each evening so that there's still access along the road.
Thank you.
And if for any reason those days are not acceptable weather-wise or something like that, is that something that staff can give them authority on for like the noise permit issue?
I would have to be advised on that. I am not sure.
Can you restate that, Kyla? I'm sorry.
Yeah, I was just wondering if for some reason the 2 days, because it sounds like they're going to need those 2 days, like they're expecting it to take 2 days. So if for some reason there's a lot of precipitation or something that would cause them to have to change their excavation plan, is the 2-day noise permit something that can have any adjustments at the staff level, or
Yeah, so
how would we handle that?
Yeah, sorry. So yes, in most all instances and cases, we're going to try to always bring noise permits before the Board of Public Works. We do have the ability to work through the mayor's office and the corporation council for more emergency based kind of noise ordinance issues. So that's the route we would go here if it did seem like it needed to extend.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, that's what I think, we obviously are considering the factors that go into the noise permit for those 2 days, but with the holidays and all of that, I just wanted to make sure that if something happened, they would have the ability to get that adjusted.
Yep. Thank you.
Any public comment on this item?
I don't see anything.
Okay, do we have a motion?
Just 1 second and I can get you a motion here. Just got to get back up in my packet.
I thought I was on.
Okay, you're there. Go ahead.
I move that we approve resolution 2021-70, right-of-way permit and encroachment in the right-of-way with a fiber optic line on South Strong Drive, including a noise permit.
And I second.
And I'll call for a vote. Kyla Cox-Deckard,
Yes.
Beth Hollingsworth,
Yes.
and Dana Henke, yes. Motion passes. Thank you. Next up, we have the street closure request from Skinell Properties for Pete Ellis Drive, December 27th through January 8th of 2020.
Good evening. This is Paul Kerber with engineering. Skanelle Properties is planning a new mixed-use project at 2851 East Longview Drive. That's the northwest corner of Pete Ellis and Longview. And before they can begin major work on the site, they need to construct a new stormwater infrastructure in Pete Ellis Drive. And there'll be a new 36-inch storm pipe and 2 manhole structures that will be within the street. And due to the extent of the excavations they need to do, they're requesting the full closure of Pete Ellis north of Longview and continuing about 330 feet. Access to all the area residents and businesses will remain. And the contractor has gone door to door to discuss the project with all the area residents and businesses. We're trying to minimize the impact by doing a full closure for a short duration instead of just possible lane closures for much longer time. They are requesting December 27th, 2021 to January 9th, 2022. And we are asking that staff could possibly add an additional week if necessary due to weather and other unforeseen issues they may come across. And then they're committed to working 6 days a week also, with the exception of New Year's Day. And then we've notified IU Health EMS, Transit, and also MCCSC about the closure. Are there any questions?
Hey, Paul, I'll just ask real quick. In your conversation with MCCSC, I know it was brought up in the board work session yesterday that Just curious if it will impact any MCCSC routes.
I wrote to him and I did not get a response from Nate Oliver.
Okay. We'll
Did
be
we hear-
following.
Oh, go ahead.
We'll be sure to follow up with them directly.
Yeah.
Did we hear from any other residents or businesses in the area?
For this part of the closure, no, well, I guess originally we heard from the coffee shop on the corner. They're just concerned due to the impacts.
And also there are a lot of apartment buildings in that area that will be closed. So there conceivably could be kids back in there going to school. So you'll want to be sure to check that further. Well,
For the coffee shop and the other locations, I believe in the report, it had been noted that everyone would be able to maintain access to their parking lots or drives. Is that accurate?
Yes, it is. They'll be able to access from either the north or the south during the whole project.
Very good. And did IU Health report back with like an affirmative that they were able to navigate that closure for ambulance service and other important service to the hospital?
I never heard back from them either. It was their main person that I contacted.
I do believe we've got some representatives of the development on the call. I don't know if they would like to offer any comment about some of these questions.
Jeff Fanio, are you able to comment on what IU Health had said?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Kelly Mullis is my contact with the IU EMS facilities. We're designing 2 facilities for them now, one on First Street and one out in North Park. And I've been dealing with her for the last couple of years in these projects. So I sent her an email of the original closure over a longer period of time, but flagging, and she said that was okay. I emailed her on this closure and I've not heard anything back from her.
The only thing I'd add too is, we'll be sure to do some additional outreach here, after the meeting and such. All of these closures go into our inroad system, which is shared with MCCSC, transit, all public safety agencies, et cetera. So that's all part of an additional informational process that goes out every Friday as an update to all of those folks to know, what upcoming closures are occurring and things like that. So we'll be sure to just double check and follow up.
And these closures it's not happening until the 27th. So there is some time to coordinate if there is anything, if there were an issue.
Yes. And we've got a meeting on the 21st. We've got a meeting later in December that if anything major does come up, we can be sure to update the board.
Okay.
And
yeah, go ahead.
was IU Health notified? I know, 2 weeks ago, we discussed this particular closure. Was that the time when IU Health was notified about the change to the closure plan?
That's correct. That they were notified last week.
Thank you.
Also, when the stormwater infrastructure is complete, how soon after that do they expect to start the construction of the building?
So I can give you a high level answer to that. Our general superintendent's on the phone as well. So anything more detailed, I'll let him answer. But the first thing we do need to do is the storm work, as you noted. But then beyond that, it's going to be some ground improvement, which will be putting some aggregate piers in the ground that the building will then bear on, and then it'll be digging footings thereafter. So Dave, will first footings be dug in January?
Yes, the next mobilization crew of a crew would be the rammed aggregate piers. And we've met with those folks earlier today to establish how the dirt work and the ag pier situation would pan out. I think we've got a pretty good plan, but we've kind of modified our erosion control with Kat. She's with the Bloomington Department of Planning there. So we have a plan to be able to start as soon as possible, stripping topsoil and then moving into the rammed aggregate piers, and then following up, like you said, with the concrete work.
Because I imagine this will impact the area too with traffic and lane closures. It's probably an ongoing project, all of this.
Yes, we're looking at least a couple of year duration for this project.
Would you two just mind stating your name for the record too, just so we have it?
David Lawrence with Shield Sexton.
And I'm Craig Miller with Skanelle Properties.
Thank you.
And Jeff,
Yeah,
Jeff, why don't you, Jeff Fanio, can you please just identify yourself for the record too?
I'm Jeff Fanio with Bynum Fanio Associates.
Thank you. I know you're a seasoned veteran at these meetings and a pro, so you probably introduced yourself at the beginning, but I might have missed it.
Okay, any other questions from board members?
No, I just appreciate their postponing it a couple of weeks like we had suggested they do.
Yeah, and I'll just make a quick comment if I might, Dana. I know we've got a lot of representatives of the project on the call, and just appreciate Paul's efforts, engineering's efforts, and the development team's efforts. You know, these projects get a lot of scrutiny. They get a lot of input from adjacent property owners, et cetera. I know we probably got some approvals a little later than everybody wanted, but needed to make sure we were really working through all these details. So just appreciate everybody's patience and working together on this. So thanks.
Yeah, I'm also grateful to everybody for working together. And I think, Adam, if we can just plan to do an update at our work session for the December 21st meeting, that would be great, just so we know what happened with the follow-up.
Great. Is there any public comment on this item? I don't see any raised hands or chats. Okay, do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the street closure request from Skanelle Properties on North Pete Ellis Drive, December 27th, 2021 through January 8th, 2022.
Is that supposed to be January 9th?
Yeah, I think he did say the 9th, but it's on the 8th on the agenda. So maybe-
Okay, yeah, I think it looks like the 9th is what they're counting on, so.
On the application, it says the 9th, so let's make
Okay.
it the 9th.
Change
Yeah.
that on the agenda. So that would be December 27th, 2021 until January 9th, 2022.
And I second that motion.
And I'll call for a vote. Kyla Cox-Deckard,
Yes.
Beth Hollingsworth,
Yes.
Dana Hankey, yes. Motion passes. Thank you. Next is number 6, lane closure request from Coppers Construction on North Adams Street.
This is Paul Kerberg, Engineering again. Coppers Railroad Structures is requesting a full street closure on North Adams Street from West 7th Street to West Fountain Drive. They will be completing needed repair work on the railroad overpass over North Adams Street. They will have a detour route posted using Kirkwood, Rogers, and West 11th Street. They also plan to escort pedestrians through the site as safely as possible. And the expected closure is from December 13th, 2021 to December 17th, 2021. Are there any questions?
You had mentioned that the residents were notified. You mentioned that yesterday in the work session. How were they notified? And do you have any problems with that?
They were sent letters by the contractor.
No responses from the letter?
No, I haven't heard anything.
Okay, thank you.
Just a quick clarification on dates. It looks like in the application, the end date is the 17th, but in the letters, December 22nd was listed. I just wanted to find out what the actual range is that's needed.
When I had spoke with the contractor, he confirmed it would just be the 5-day closure until the 17th.
Paul, this is Nick Bedicke with Coppers. I am on here this evening. And that's the dates are correct. It's going to be December 13th through the 17th and possibly shorter. We're using a stronger concretive product that actually gets cured quicker. So we should be able to strip our forms quicker and get out of your guys' way again.
Thanks for that clarification. Any other questions from the board?
On the agenda, it says December 18th, 2021. He has just said the 17th. And I
Yes.
also have the 22nd. So 17th, the correct date?
Yes, sounds like it.
Okay, it needs to be corrected then.
Any public comment on this item? I don't see any. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve lane closure requests from Coppers Construction on North Adams, December 13th, 2021 through December 17th, 2021.
Nice second.
And I'll call for a vote. Kyla Cox Deckard,
Yes.
Beth Hollingsworth,
Yes.
Dana Hankey, yes. Motion passes. Next up is lane closure request from Duke Energy along East Moores Pike.
This is Paul Kerberg in engineering. Duke Energy is requesting lane closures along East Moores Pike from just west of South College Mall Road, Sarah Road to South Smith Road. They will be upgrading some of their infrastructure, replacing some poles and equipment along this corridor. Flaggers will be in place for the closures, and they'll also need to close the adjacent sidewalks while they are completing work overhead. These closures are planned for February 7th, 2022 to March 4th, 2022. Are there any questions?
Yesterday you mentioned Winfield to Smith. Did you mention that tonight?
That's where the sidewalk closures will be. It's from along Morse Pike from Winfield to Smith Road for the sidewalk closures.
Okay, thank you.
And this will be a moving closure as they work. The whole thing won't be closed at once.
Any other questions from the board? Any public comment? I don't see any. Okay, do we have a motion?
I move that we approve lane closure requests from Duke Energy along East Moores Pike. The dates are February 7th, 2022 until March 4th, 2022.
Nice second.
And I'll call for a vote. Kyla Cox Deckard,
Yes.
Beth Hollingsworth,
Yes.
and Dana Hankey, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is lane closure request from Ignition Arts on South Walnut Street.
Hey, Paul, I'm going to go ahead and take this one. So this is Adam Wason, Public Works Director for the City of Bloomington. Thanks to Paul Kerberg and all his work working with the team at Ignition Arts on the art installation project. We talked, I believe, at the last meeting about how we had done some staff level approvals for the sidewalk and the parking lanes. We're in front of you tonight as the Ignition team was beginning to do their installation along Walnut Street. with the lifts and the different equipment they need to lift the large panels into place and get those secured, it was realized that the turning of those lifts was going out into the lane of traffic a few feet. And so they have come back and we've looked and can't find a real efficient way to do this without that extra lane of traffic. So Michael and his team at Ignition Arts have been working with Paul to get this in front of you this evening. We're hoping this will be just starting tomorrow through December 21st. We'll get appropriate advanced signage in place, advanced warning signage further south on Walnut. And we've let other agencies know of this upcoming lane closure if approved today. So I appreciate everybody coordinating quickly on that yesterday as we realized it was going to be too tight and to safely install without that lane of traffic. And I believe we've got representatives of the Ignition Arts, and I know Paul's here, obviously. So if you have questions.
I do. You mentioned a lane or a sidewalk closure also along that same side. So, and there will not be a walk around because they say it's not feasible for a walk around for there.
Yeah, so it's not just that it's not feasible, but we just can't figure out a way to safely do the walk around given the way that these lifts need to lift the big metal sharp structures with the art on them. How to safely do that? They've got to kind of swing them a bit, and it's just so we're going for the short full closure with a detour to sidewalk detour to the east side of Walnut.
Yeah, and that was going to be my question, was just that there would be sidewalk detour signage at the best places to cross in the neighboring sections of the sidewalk.
Yep, those were already up. I did notice it got blown down in the heavy winds the other day, but they got that up pretty quickly afterwards. So yeah, that's all part of this.
Can't wait to see it. Sounds great.
Yeah, I'm excited to see it too. Any public comment on this item?
We got nothing in chat.
Okay, thank you. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve the lane closure request from Ignition Arts on South Walnut, December 8th, 2021 through December 21st, 2021.
And I second.
And I'll call for a vote. Kyla Cox Deckard,
Yes.
Beth Hollingsworth,
Yes.
and Dana Hankey, yes. Motion passes. Next up is a supplemental agreement number 1 to the engineering contract with Beam Longest and Neff LLC for the pedestrian bridge and small structure inspections.
Hi, Patrick Durgas, Engineering Department. This project will conduct structural inspections on portions of existing bridges and large culverts that are located within the city's corporate limits. BLN was selected for their contract due to their extensive experience in conducting this type of work throughout the state. Phase 2 of this project, which is what the supplement is, will concentrate on new inspections of 2 pedestrian bridges that are maintained by Public Works, 4 pedestrian bridges that are maintained by Parks, and 9 large culverts that are maintained by City Utilities, CVU. The supplemental agreement increases the contract by $33,200, making the new contract $70,100. Funding for this project will be split between 3 departments based upon the inspections. So the split is, I guess this is just for Public Works. So the one we're concerned about is $5,066.68. MOUs with Parks and CBU have been drafted. They've been approved by staff, and they're currently with City Legal, and those will be presented at the next Board of Public Works meeting for approval. And those will cover the payments from CBU and from Parks for these inspections. Available for any questions.
I'm just interested, do you know off the top of your head, what are the 2 pedestrian bridges that are maintained by Public Works?
Public Works has a number of pedestrian bridges around town. We just recently built a new one on like Sayre Road as part of the multi-use path along there. The two that are in this project are out off of Old 37 over Griffey Creek with the multi-use trail that runs along that road.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Any other questions from the board? Any public comment on this item? Ready? Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve supplemental agreement number 1 to engineering contract with Beam Longest and Neff LLC for pedestrian bridge and small structure inspections.
I second.
And I'll call for a vote. Kyla Cox-Deckard,
Yes.
Beth Hollingsworth,
Yes.
and Dana Hankey, yes. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next up, Resolution 2021-69, new mobile solicitor's license for Nick of Time textbooks.
Hi, gang. I guess I shouldn't say that. Hi, board members. Nice to see you all. So I'm presenting for Mr. Baird, who's here with Nick of Time textbooks, and he wishes to set up a location at the intersection of Indiana Avenue and Kirkwood Avenue in order to temporarily vend textbooks at the end of the semester. I believe there was a question during the work session about the duration of the license request, and I inquired with Mr. Baird, and he would prefer to have just a month-long request or month-long license. He was planning to sell just for a couple weeks at the end of the semester while students are still present. And then it's my understanding that we're also just considering the first location because the second location is on IU property. And so he understands that he would have to address that directly with IU, and he may have done that. I'm not sure. So we're really just discussing location 1 tonight. That I'd be happy to take questions, and Mr. Baird is here as well if there are any other issues.
Thank you. Okay, so it looks like that we are reviewing a 1-month license for only the one location on, I guess, let's see, Kirkwood. Is that correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah. Any questions from the board?
I know that with mobile food vendors, the city maintains a list and just monitors, the number of licenses we have for those. For vendors like this that are, a sort of not really static, but are operating in a specific location in the sidewalk area. Are we maintaining a list, and do we have any kind of preference as to how many or how few of those vendors would be approved for licenses?
I don't have a list presently of active solicitors licenses. We maintain, obviously, all the records in our departmental files, business by business. So some of them the vendors will reapply on a recurring basis, and then many of them are just kind of one and done. So it varies quite a bit. This license, I think, is used mainly for, I would imagine, I think we get a lot of them for the Blooming Foods parking lot on the east side, for example. So we don't have a ton of active solicitors licenses. Sorry, that's vague, but.
I believe this is the only one that we've actually got active for a public property. So, what we do is we ask Chris, our downtown specialist, to kind of monitor, make sure that you've got proper ADA clearances, the 54-inch free and clear path, things like that. And if we have issues, we just address them as we see them.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I appreciate your insight on that. I knew that this was It was sort of a unique request, I feel like, for the Board of Public Works. We're so used to seeing the mobile food vendors and we're kind of in that pattern. And so this one definitely stood out to me, which made me wonder the question because we don't necessarily see that many of them. So I appreciate that. Thanks.
Yeah, and I'll just make note and thank Mr. Baird for his upfront and application because a lot of the book buyers and sellers just show up and in the dark of night and leave, so, and don't even let the city know they're coming. So no, this is how we prefer to have it done.
The one I remember is the flower vendor. Remember, she would come and sell flowers a couple of times. That's the one I remember that it was a little unusual that we approved.
My wife liked those flowers.
Yeah, it was good. That was a good idea.
Any other questions from the board? Do we have any public comment on this item? I don't see any. All right, do we have a motion?
I move that we approve resolution 2021-69, 1 month new mobile solicitor's license nick of time textbooks.
And I second.
And I'll call for a vote. Kyla Cox Deckard,
Yes.
Beth Hollingsworth,
Yes.
and Dana Hankey, yes. Motion passes.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, next up under new business, number 11, Cooperative Services Agreement with Centerstone of Indiana, Inc.
Yes, this is me. So this is a cooperative services agreement with Centerstone of Indiana, Inc. As the board knows, we've brought several contracts before you over the last year plus to engage in supportive employment services with Centerstone as part of our Brighton B-Town program. Brighton B-Town program is doing things like debris removal, curb cleaning, yellow curb painting, working with our leafing crews. We're going to look to use them possibly for some snow control efforts on sidewalks and as part of a pilot project this year. A fantastic project, a fantastic program that is having very real impacts with the clients of Centerstone and getting them back to in their efforts towards employment. So the partnership, these are clients that are working with Centerstone on whether it's substance abuse or other challenges, and then work through the city as through this program. Great success and super proud of our efforts here. We're just want to thank JD Boroff and his team and Joe Van Devender with the street department who are overseeing this work. And then all the staff at Centerstone we've been working with have been just fantastic. So I'm trying to get to, I believe this is, Jane, do you remind me, how much was this contract amount for? I can't get to my packet right away. Shoot.
220,000.
220,000. There it is. So request your approval and support of this great program. And Jane and I are here to answer any questions. I believe, I don't see Larry, but I'm sure we can answer any that you might have.
Is that a year contract, Adam? 1 year?
This is, yes. So this will continue through December 31st of 2022.
Okay, I have another question. You mentioned this winter using them for some snow removal. Is that, so you just call them when you have a?
Yeah, so they come in, they're on set schedules with us in terms of, they'll be on sets. So on days where we don't have any snow control or anything to do, we'll be doing other things. But the pilot program for snow control efforts was just a conversation with city council as part of our budget process. We didn't firmly commit to anything, but this would be something that the council had brought up as far as specific to pedestrian walkways, sidewalks that are monolithic, so without a tree plot, and that get higher pedestrian volumes. So one of the areas, 3 areas that we've currently identified that we would focus on as part of the pilot are there's sidewalks on the east side of Walnut Street, east and west sides of Walnut Street from say First Street down south towards Hillside. Or actually down to Miller Drive that we would look to be a kind of pilot area. Also looking at the overpasses of I-69 at 2nd and 3rd Street. It won't be perfect. It won't always be perfectly clear especially if we have extended snow events. The issue that the council brings up is that, in those areas where there's no tree plot, the snow has nowhere to go other than onto the sidewalk when plowed. It's a very real issue, but at the same time, one where, keeping roadways free for traveling safe and free and clear of snow is kind of our first effort during snow control events. So for all the reasons that it should be. And so this is kind of a response to that request from council.
And it looks like it's at a set wage. Is that just the wage that we pay for those services typically? Or is this like a negotiated wage?
This is based on the living wage ordinance. So we set the wage for this program at the living wage ordinance each year. That gets updated based on what city legal tells us is the new rate. They've got some fancy formula.
And it looked like, based on my super fast math, that generally it's about 25 hours a week per person. Is that roughly correct? I saw there was another hour time span that was a little longer than that, but I'm guessing it kind of gets broken up to about 25 hours a week. Is that right?
Yeah, it does per employee roughly, but yeah, about 25 hours per week per employee is what we try to budget and aim for. Some weeks if it's if it's just too rainy or except a lot of factors influence that average, but yeah, that's what we try to set it at.
And then I also noticed that, oh, sorry, Beth, you can go ahead.
Okay. I just wondered, do you pay them directly, or since we have this agreement with Centerstone, does it go through Centerstone?
This is all funded through Centerstone. So, Centerstone agrees to pay them at that living wage rate. They track the hours. They have supervisors that provide the transportation. There's some administrative fees built in and things like that as well. So, but yes, they are clients of Centerstone and paid through Centerstone.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's what I was going to also note is that, I saw that Centerstone gets an administrative fee, and I also saw that they provide the supervisor for it. So is that supervisor's pay coming essentially from that fee, or does that supervisor get paid? Okay.
Yep.
That's what I was curious about. And then they do all the payroll administration and the hiring administration and all that. Okay, great. Thanks.
And then Christina Smith on our team helps manage that week in, week out to, when we get their monthly invoicing, to check back to the spreadsheets on who was working what, all that sort of stuff.
Great, thank you. Any questions from any public comment on this item?
I don't see anything.
Thank you. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve cooperative services agreement with Centerstone of Indiana, Inc.
And I second.
And I'll call for a vote. Kyla Cox Deckard,
Yes.
Beth Hollingsworth,
Yes.
and Dana Hankey, yes. Motion passes. Next up is change order number 1 for the bus improvements project with Rivertown Construction.
Good evening, board members. Michael Large, Department of Public Works. I come to you tonight to present change orders 1 and 2 for Recover Forward's bus stop improvements project. The board approved the contract with Rivertown Construction LLC back on December 22nd of 2020. The project took place through the spring and summer of 21 with the installation of 41 ADA compliant bus stops in and around the city, looking primarily at the areas of large ridership. During construction, it was found that several locations needed some updates to the sidewalk adjacent to the pads themselves to ensure that they were compliant for the ridership. Change order 1 is for the base bid locations in the amount of $53,482.10, bringing the total contract amount to $539,153.10, and I would be glad to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the board? Any public comment on this item? Okay, do we have a motion?
I move that we approve change order number 1 for the bus improvements project with Rivertown Construction.
And I second.
And I'll call for a vote. Kyla Cox Deckard,
Yes.
Beth Hollingsworth,
Yes.
Dana Henke, yes, motion passes. And next is change order number 2 for the bus improvements project.
Michael Large, Department of Public Works. Once again, change order 2 is in the amount of $40,974.20. And once again, I'll free to answer any questions.
Any questions from the board?
I don't have a question on this. I just wonder about the Recover Forward project. How is that coming along and how long does that plan to go?
So I will say, and I'll add a jump in here as well. Recover Forward has been a great project that has stimulated this economy during the months of COVID and the pandemic. We have improved infrastructure throughout the city, from the bus stops to the Centerstone project, which we just spoke of, to sidewalks along the near west side. We have made significant improvements to the overall infrastructure of the city going forward with this overall project. It's been a great experience and situation for all involved.
Yeah, Beth, I'll just add that, for Public Works in particular, that's the Centerstone project, that's the supportive employment. We've done sidewalk grinding projects. We've done projects specific to sidewalk repairs that were the result of street trees damaging the sidewalks. These are infrastructure investments that are geared towards sidewalk improvements. And anytime we're doing those, we're thrilled. And with this BT project, this was not only funding from Recover Forward, but BT put some money in the game. Engineering worked very closely with this, and whenever you're able to make improvements like this at such a large scale, we were cognizant these change orders were going to be pretty high, but when we looked at the overall impact that the project was going to have, it was pretty much no brainer.
Thank you. And Michael mentioned yesterday that everyone should really look at the bus improvement projects and the people that are using these benches and the structures there to protect them from the cold. And he feels it was a really valuable project.
Yeah.
That doesn't include the alley. This does not include the alley projects, does it?
No.
Thank you.
Any public comment on this item? Great. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve change order number 2 for the bus improvements project with Rivertown Construction.
And I second.
And I'll call for a vote. Kyla Cox Deckard,
Yes.
Beth Hollingsworth,
Yes.
Dana Henke, yes, motion passes. Thanks, Michael. Next is staff reports and other business.
Just Adam Wason here, Public Works Director. Thank you to the board for being flexible and understanding. These end of the year board meetings tend to, we're trying to get a lot done at the end of the year in terms of getting books wrapped up and funds encumbered and contract. It's a lot. I appreciate all the staff members that have been working hard to get all those things coordinated and put together, but I appreciate the board's flexibility over the last couple of days, knowing we had some moving parts and different things that were just, again, always end of year is always just a time of trying to get things wrapped up for us. And so just appreciate that. Wanted to make note of, and I hate to keep doing this at our meeting. I would hate to do this in any circumstance, but wanted to note passing it to individuals at City that were employees over at City Bloomington Utilities and points of their career. Tony Waldon was a current employee that I got to know when I was an intern back in my intern days of the very early 2000s. And Tony passed after a long health battle last week, and just want to send our condolences to his family. And then Sammy Hastings also passed, who was a former utilities employee, retired from there. And anybody that ever met Sammy knew that Sammy always had the big stories. And so I just want to send our condolences to his family as well. And may they both rest in peace. So thanks.
Thank you, Adam. our condolences to those families. Next up is approval of claims. Were there any questions on claims from the board?
Yes, I'd like to, it's not so much about the amount, it's 54,110. It's the Bloomington roller rink land purchase. Do we own the Bloomington roller rink? Is that, I'm not familiar with that rink.
Sorry. Sorry, I was trying to get unmuted. Those are right-of-way acquisitions, Beth, as part of, those are right-of-way acquisitions as part of upcoming transportation. I think those are sidewalks or side path projects. I see, Andrew, you're on here, I think, still. I hate to call on you without knowing if you're actually, yep, there he is.
Yeah, I'm here. Sorry, though, I was not fully paying attention. Could you?
No, that's okay. So one of the claims is, I think, purchase. I think it's got to do with right-of-way acquisition with up on 17th Street near the roller skating rink. Is that a upcoming sidewalk project, side path? I don't remember.
Yeah, good question. So that we have a project that we're in the right-of-way stage along West 17th Street, basically from the roundabout out towards Grant. And so there's a number of properties we're acquiring property. It'll be a multi-use path on the north side of the street, essentially connecting everything that exists out to I-69 to everything in front of the IU sports complex.
That's right. That's right. I knew this was a good big project.
Yeah. So it starts at the roller rink and goes west.
Yeah. Oh, no, it goes east towards basically the new big apartments out by Dunn Street. They constructed a section of path. So this essentially connects all the way out to there. We're right now in the right-of-way stage and likely just looking ahead, construction will likely start sometime probably later next year and roll over into 2023. But that's big picture of what that project's looking like.
Thank you.
Yeah, Beth, so that'll go back to Grant on the east. So, as Andrew was mentioning, IU put in their big side path along the athletic facility on 17th. So this will now connect you all the way from IU Athletics all the way out to the bridge over I-69 with a full side path, which, how awesome.
And I'll just by chance add that we were in a meeting earlier today with the county and they're working on a project actually to connect what's out in the county out to Cars Farm Greenway so that eventually all this will actually connect. And we've got another project that'll connect the B line all the way up to 17th as well. So it's going to be a really nice network in the next couple of years.
Yeah, really nice. Thank you. That's great. Thanks for the update.
All righty. Any public comment on claims? Okay, I don't see any. Do we have a motion?
I move that we approve claims $812,807.04.
I second.
And I'll call for a vote. Kyla Cox-Deckard.
Yes.
Beth Hollingsworth.
Yes.
And Dana Henke, yes. Motion passes. And if there's nothing else, I call for adjournment.
Meeting's adjourned.
Thanks, everyone.
Everybody.
Have a great night.
Yeah.
See ya.
See ya.